Okay, if everyone will just take a seat, we'd appreciate it. We'd like to get started. Before we begin tonight, I've asked Sister Donna Baker to come in and start us off with a prayer.
I would like to begin this prayer with a quote from Pope John the 23rd. And I quote, "Consult not your fears, but your hopes and your dreams. Think not about your frustrations, but about your unfulfilled potential. Concern yourself not with what you have tried and failed in, but what is still possible to do. Now is the time to look with confidence to a new day called tomorrow." End of quote. Loving God, we thank you for this opportunity to be here, working together toward the common goal of enriching Rosarian Academy. May we be guided by your wisdom, your love, and the abiding presence of your Spirit. For your wisdom teaches us about what is truly important and gives us the courage to do the right thing. Your love reminds us that your compassion is for all your children. Your Spirit empowers us to recognize the ways in which we are blessed and to build a community of learning that is characterized by joy, creativity, and a spirit of service. Through our work, may Rosarian be true to the charism of our founder and the heritage that is our privilege to pass on. And we make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Sister. Well, as always, that's a very difficult act to follow. Thank you very much for being here tonight. I'm really very excited for this event. Unfortunately, the weather hasn't really cooperated with us, but I do want to thank all the people who were watching here online. At last take, we were close to 20 people who were watching virtually. I don't know who if you have a count at this point.
24.
How many?
24.
24, okay, great. Some of which are members of the Corporation for Adrian, Michigan, so we'd like to welcome them here tonight as well. So thank you for tuning in. And I'm happy we were able to offer this, and I do appreciate everyone coming up out of the bad weather. And I guess before we started, I wanted to really talk about the journey that sort of led us here to this evening. It was really the journey that my wife Kate and I took over the past year. And I will tell you that this state of the school, we felt very strongly this talk needs to happen. And that we were at a really important point in the school's history in that we were really trying to define the directions of the school. And what we didn't want to do is I didn't want to sort of parachute in here from Long Island and New York and come from a completely different environment. And we didn't want to come in and sort of try to dictate how it should be. Because there are a lot of people, what I quickly learned about this school is that there are a lot of people that are very passionate and have a very clear sense of what we want to be and what kind of program we want to offer. So we really dived in on the voyage of discovery and met with tons and tons and tons of people, faculty, staff, parents, even some kids were involved along the way and had a really big voice even very early on in the interview process. So this work that you see tonight was not me. This work is us, and I think it's really important to understand that. These are the really big points that I've pulled out in multiple conversations. I really think fondly back to February of last year, and it was actually a week before President's Week where I did one of the visits to the school, and I actually achieved something like 25 to 30 meetings in a 2-day span with different parents and faculty, which was just enormously helpful. It really helped begin to inform the conversation we're going to have tonight. So this talk, what you're going to see, this is actually officially the 10th time I've given this talk already. It's been given to various committees within the school, it's been given to the faculty, various parent groups, and every time we learn something a little bit different, we identify a different need, and the project continues to be ratcheted up to where I think it's just about in a finished state, but certainly if you have any comments or thoughts, please feel free to share them either tonight or as a follow-up. So we'll focus tonight on some of the key things about that warrant our attention this evening. The first is mission, culture, and community. We're going to talk about program. We're going to talk about facilities, and we're going to talk about sustainability into the future. We start, as every good school does, we start and end with mission, culture, and community. Our mission is our bedrock. It defines everything we do within our school. Our mission at Rosarian Academy calls us to educate the whole person for life in the light of the gospel values. As a Catholic, independent school, we value kind-hearted, socially responsible individuals whose families embrace the spirit and mission of our community. So how do you get those families? And how do we draw those families into our school and get them to understand who we are? We are embarking through our admissions process. We're trying to really expand our marketing efforts through publications, web, social media. Really, word of mouth has always been one of the key things for our school in their admissions process. Word of mouth cannot be understated enough, and it's something we continue to want to capitalize on. We're trying to really focus on how we appeal to families not of Catholic background. One of the big things that sort of pinged out in a lot of the conversations that we've had with families is just that often people have ruled out our school because they feel like, well, I come from a different background or a different faith, so that's not the school for me. It cannot be understated enough that we are an independent school. We are not a diocesan school. We are not a parish school. We are fully independent. We have a Catholic mission, true and true. But we really, the independence that we bring to the table really makes us unique and special in so many ways. We have quite a diverse parent body from a lot of different backgrounds and faiths, and we are willing to celebrate that and really spread the word. We know that the larger the applicant pool, the more able we are to identify good fits for our community. So, making the applicant pool bigger. You know that we've been working very diligently on expanding systems of transportation. This is something that honestly also pinged out as a humongous need for our school, not only in terms of how do we get kids to and from campus, but also how do we support things like the athletic program. The athletic program for middle school is a wonderful program and is very successful. Biggest concern for parents that have almost universally been felt is, how do I stop everything, come to school, transport my child to and from practice or to a game? It seems like it's almost prohibitive. Oftentimes, families have ruled our school out because this option wasn't available, and we're going to make it available. So we talk about program. Obviously, the backbone of our school is our faculty. Our faculty, what we want to do is attract and retain the best possible teachers for our kids. We want to establish a competitive salary scale. We want to really look at benefits structure based on years of experience, commitment to the school, performance, and really just how they feel about our school and how involved they are within the life of our school. We also make a commitment to professional growth through academic support, professional development. Wherever possible, it's our goal to celebrate good teaching. Our curriculum. As an independent, family-oriented school, we're trying to adopt programs with rigor and vigor. And I get a lot of jokes about rigor and vigor, because what does that mean, rigor and vigor? That's actually the universally adopted term from the New England League of Middle Schools, also the National Middle School Association, for what identify as really good middle school program. We're trying to appeal to a very broad range of learners. Because we're a family-oriented school, we have kids of a lot of different types. We have a lot of different types of kids and a lot of different types of learners. We're trying to do a better job in terms of differentiating our instruction, really understanding all the kids in our classroom and what they need. The program is really setting out not only fostering basic skills, such as reading and math, but also a broader idea of student global competencies, addressing more advanced concepts in science, all the STEM initiatives, engineering. Those are the ideas that we're looking to expand and grow from. Character and spiritual development will continue to be at the core of our work. It is something that sets our school apart, and it's not to be underestimated. We've recently engaged in some really exciting conversations with the middle school faculty around the growth of an advisory program that already exists, but really needs to be ratcheted up and taken to the next level. A good advisory program, I'll add, for middle school will quickly become the core of the experience of the school, if it's done well. So we talk about our facilities, trying to foster a strong program by providing world-class facilities. Property acquisition. There are properties at the back of campus, which is right next to our toddler house, right about there, these two buildings here. We are hoping, as a school, that they will soon be available for purchase. And because we're trying to enclose our campus and make it a safer, more secure environment, we really see those two buildings as the linchpin for some very exciting possibilities of what to do with our campus. Securing those buildings can offer a lot of different options to us, perhaps with the lower school, perhaps with athletic fields, or perhaps both. And we dug this out of the archives, and I have to share this. This is a really, really, really old master plan that was came out of the 90s. And if you see that Mary DeVault, the one-time principal, was signed her name to it. And this was a master plan that the school went through many years ago. And it's interesting to see the master plan that it went through many years ago. Some of the things came to fruition. For example, the future gym, and look where it's located. We know we succeeded in building that gym. It ended up over here, but we did succeed. Conversations about a future pool. Interesting concept there. Been a joke this year about the pool. We talked about they did restore the chapel. We know we did that. Back where those buildings are, at the back of campus, conversations still continue about the development of a future, maybe a grassy play area for kids and how that could really complement the Toddler Crafts program. So, very ambitious project. Some of these things, these bullet points, were achieved, and some of them were not. But in essence, what we're trying to do is really start to pick up where we left off. Which gets me to the Lewis Building. The Lewis Building broke ground in 1956, named after Frank J. Lewis. It has served our school extremely well. It is kept up with very well, thanks to some really great facilities planning and management. The rooms are bright, they're spacious, they have great light in there, really nice big windows. They're really very nice play areas. But the building has gotten old, and it does require a lot of maintenance. And we do feel like it's time to really invest in that building, rejuvenate it, to bring it up to standard where it needs to be going forward. So highlight some of the highlights of this potential master planning process that we could use for campus and considerations. Moving more sports onto campus through space utilization and traffic study. It's funny, all of these conversations about the state of the school do often come down to traffic and parking. And this is no exception, but it is important. And those of you who pick up in the lower school in the back every day know that this is certainly a need of ours, especially with all the construction in the surrounding area. We're talking about development of maker and lab space for more design, build, and engineering projects. Those are things we're actually currently getting quotes on right now as we speak. And a reimagined feel of campus, including classroom utilization, social play areas, the cafeteria. The cafeteria is amazing, and I can probably talk all night just about the cafeteria. It's very charming in its own way, and if you look at pictures from the 1950s, it looks exactly the same. And I'll add, it's got the same furniture. It does have the same furniture, I'm not kidding. And that's amazing, because I think that initially when the building was built and invested tested it initially. It was done really well. It had to have been for those things to have maintained over all these years, and seeing the use and abuse that they're faced with each and every day. They were really done well to begin with, and we're really proud of that. Long-term sustainability. We have been working hard this year to really look at fundraising efforts for the school, really identify initiatives through the development office about why we do what we do. You know, looking at the ebb and flow of the giving cycle, trying to really be more proactive about not asking too much of our families and with such great frequency. That was really a loud and clear pattern that I heard from a lot of families. We're working on putting together an all-inclusive tuition plan to that model. All-inclusive is a model that many schools are adopting right now. This comment about sort of how many times people are asked for things is a universal sentiment with a lot of independent schools. Adopting and building into tuition, and really stretching that tuition dollar as far as we can has been our priority this year, especially at the board level. Things like books we know were included in tuition for next year. We know about transportation. After next year, we hope to build in technology, and ultimately, when the food service and cafeteria get their hard look and when we really examine how they're functioning, we hope to be able to include meals as well. I did also, I skipped one important point there too, and I don't want to miss this point because this is something that's also come up loud and clear. The re-engagement of our alumni. Over recent years, for whatever reason, that effort has not been done as well as it could be in the past. We have a wonderful alumni. They are scattered all over the country, and there's been a few Saturday mornings where we made it down here, and Kathy Reeder, thanks to Kathy Reeder, she's given some wonderful tours from classes who just want to come back and reconnect. We need to really engage those people more. They have a great love for this institution, one that is really shared by you. When we talk about this, investment for independent schools can often be kind of a mysterious thing for a lot of families. And what I wanted to do is just give a short lesson on investments because they're very telling for a lot of things. NIAS tells us schools in the Southeast, that's the National Association of Independent Schools, schools in the Southeast, they average about just under a $10 million endowment, their reserves. They draw on that endowment for their operating budget. Our school currently right now has a charitable trust and scholarship endowment and a few other investments that total just around $2.7 million. And here is the lesson. When we talk about the crucial role that investments play for a school, they are money in the bank, but at the same time, the real goal of these investments is to be put to work by the school. They are intended to reinvest on themselves so those investments grow, but what you're really trying to do is be able to get a good amount of investments together so you can draw on those for your operating budget. The more you're able to draw for your operating budget, the better and more consistently you are able to pay faculty, the better, more consistent financial aid offerings you're able to offer, the deeper the academic program. On average, NIAS schools will take about half of their investment returns and put it back into their operating budget. So if the return is 5%, 4%, conservatively, it would be anywhere from 2 to 3%. So, what have we been working on this year? Well, not much, really. Just some things I wanted to point out that what we've been working on this year, and I do call them, what kind of accomplishments have we established right now? We have reestablished the PEPO Fund for faculty, professional development, and academic support. We've created a budget format and processes. Erin Kirby is our new director of finance. She really dug in this year and really looked at how our financial reporting was working. Really the transparency, the numbers we were getting, and really an understanding of our own budget was really a very important piece of what we needed to do this year. And thankfully, while there's still a lot more work to be done, she did break the back of it this fall, in which we really got a better understanding of what we were working with within the budget. We committed to supplying school books to all families in 16-17. We started offering a bus route to the north, which has been really very well utilized. On any given day, we'll have between 15 and 20 children on that bus. Program enhancements, and what I want to really point out is that, we have always been a core knowledge school, and the core knowledge does give us a skeleton of a program, and we've been supplementing and really filling in and supporting the core knowledge program with a lot of the materials that we've been investing in, a lot of the training that we've been doing for faculty. Science lab in lower school, the junior grade books initiative, Pearson Science, SRA, math enrichment in the lower school. We've just started offering computer science classes in the lower school as well. School-wide work in conscious discipline. Just this afternoon, about 2 hours ago, I sat in part of the conscious discipline workshop in our school, and it was a great, great conversation with about 25 or so of our faculty, which were just sharing ideas around conscious discipline, which was a school-wide read that we initiated last year. This year we've been focusing a lot on missions, developing the parent ambassador program, application process for the toddler house and the children's house and into the lower school. I think for a long time it appeared that the children's house was kind of not officially part of Rosarian Academy. It was and it wasn't. What we obviously were doing was trying to shore that up, make sure that the continuum between early childhood and lower school was a good one, and that's still a work in progress, but we've made a lot of big headway. The idea here is that now there's a real application process as you come into early childhood, and as you come into early childhood, it's really an understanding that you're going to spend your lower and middle school years at Rosarian Academy. We reopened our junior childhood program for kids under 12 months. Some really great additions, some great kids there. As well as next week we see Dr. Mary Helen Imordino-Yang is going to join us for a talk, and that is through our newly created parent networking group, and who's sponsoring a speaker series. We hope to have regular and frequent speakers come to our campus, really to help really establish ourselves as a learning community, a community that learns, and why not bring some experts in to talk to the community. So save the date, next Tuesday, February 2nd. We're also going to have a follow-up coffee the next morning on Wednesday the 3rd to Mary. Other things underway. SAS and SACS accreditation. I want to point out that we are becoming accredited through the Southern Association of Independent Schools. And taking a step backwards, it's kind of what I was talking about in terms of our identity as an independent school. And this does really affirm that. The process is underway. We're expecting our visiting committee to come in early April. We're working on a template for evaluation and compensation for faculty. We talked about busing for spring activity is something we clearly want to accomplish by this spring, in time for those spring seasons. As I pointed out, the audit of development calendar, we talked about, haven't talked about yet, but security and security protocols are always top of the list of what we should be doing. That should probably be up top. We're installing new cameras as of next week. There's a new phone system coming in shortly. We're expanding the phone system to every single classroom, updating the intercom system, making sure that we're being able to reach kids in every single corner of this campus is what the goal is, and that's what we're hoping to achieve by next year. Dress code review, and as of next year, we're going to be doing busing to the south campus as well. In the next 2 years, ongoing program development, obviously. We talked about inclusive tuition. We talked about technology being built in. We talked about lunch. We talked about busing. We need to, in the next 1 to 2 years, start that master planning process. We need to really dig in with that effort. We're talking about increased educational technology. We're going to see a lot more devices. The middle school next year will really be on a one-to-one model. So there will be a device in every middle schooler's hand in some way, shape, or form. In addition, that means there's going to be a large amount, a big influx of technology as well into the lower school. We're going to be adopting the CTP4, which is an assessment just for I shouldn't say it's just for independent schools, but it's an assessment similar to the Iowa test that have happened in the schools over the years, and the CTP4 really is a metric that's really used by a lot of the independent schools. So it's time for us to really compare ourselves with those schools, which is the attractive point about doing this type of assessment. The Iowa test doesn't currently give us that type of comparison, so we want to make that shift and really start comparing ourselves to some of the elite schools in the country. In the next 3 to 5 years, we continue a vibrant, dynamic program, highly customized. We're talking about a redesign of the lower school. Someone said to me earlier that taking down the lower school altogether would be a monumental feat because its walls are very, very thick. And I agree with that. So likely redesign, development of athletic fields. We're shooting for a 20% growth in enrollment. We are shooting for a investment portfolio that's currently 3 times its current value. And we're shooting for work in faculty compensation to really hit that mark of getting in the top 20% of all MAS schools. So we have immediate priorities, things that we want to really get underway immediately, some of which are happening immediately, and that's really within the next year. We're hoping, like I said, and we are doing these campus safety upgrades. We're looking to upgrade the personnel as well around campus security. Program enhancements, we talked about the STEM initiatives a little bit. Went too fast. Right. Funding STEM initiatives, including makerspace development, as well as the addition of, I should say, of a new STEM teacher, dedicated STEM teacher that's going to be working in the lower school for next year. Orton Gillingham, which is really the grandfather of all great reading programs. We are having a full training for our lower school faculty in the early part of this summer, which is really quite a big deal. It's schools that do Orton Gillingham and do them really well are really legit schools, and our lower school faculty is going to be doing that. It was a goal really from day one that we're going to really generate really good readers and writers at our school as a core expectation for the kids at Rosarian. Tufts Robotics program, we're talking about integrating Singapore math into the lower school for next year, starting kindergarten. We talked about the purchase of school vans, playground upgrades. We're currently getting pricing on more sun protection for the playgrounds and some potential upgrades to the equipment. We are in the process of marketing and rebranding ourselves. Not rebranding ourselves as something, we're not doing away with the Rosarian image or anything else like that, but we do need help with publications, with a website redesign, with a lot of the outreach, a lot of the admissions materials we need. We really do need help in that regard, and we're currently getting pricing from several consultants to do that. We talked about the property acquisition. As I said, I do believe it's sort of a linchpin for a lot of the things that we're trying to do. And we're talking about seed funding for campus planning. And the next 90 years, and this is my final slide, and excuse me for being so robust, but I do believe that we should continue our traditions of faith and excellence in academic instruction and really establish ourselves as the finest independent Catholic school in the state. That's my time. So, if you get this feeling like we're just drinking from water from a fire hose, that's kind of, what we've been living, but at the same time, it's been a really exciting time. We've really dove in with a lot of really meaty, important work, and I just want to thank you all for being here, and I'll take any questions or anything right now that you have. Yes?
Singapore map. What's expanding your horizons beyond just remembering?
Singapore, it's complicated as far as a lot of the content of it, but I will tell you that very well established math program for a lot of schools focuses a lot on less topics, more depth with the topics. A lot of very multisensory, really good abstract. Really supports abstract reasoning in math instruction. That's the 2-second version, but at the same time, we do have faculty very, very interested in supporting that program, and we're eager to bring it because I do know of a lot of really high quality, really good schools that are are using programs like that. So,
Because it's the goal of increasing the enrollment, how does that relate to the current class size?
honestly, we would never be a school that is going to overfill the classes. I think right now we have a few classes that are hitting 20, and I think that's always going to be right at the top of our comfort zone. So I think, you know, the sweet spot I would always say for our class is going to be 14 to 16 kids.
You're applying for accreditation for this AIS.
Right.
How will that change, or how might it change our program or independence going forward?
You know, it will only help grow it, I would say that. The model for an SAS evaluation is different from the accreditation models the school has used in the past. In the past, the accreditation models, you know, the committee came in, they looked at your standardized test scores or what you were doing, and you said, okay, by the next time you get here, you're going to have to fix that. This is basically, I'm going to share these goals with them. It's very goal-driven and growth mindset-driven. And their purpose is to really help us establish these goals, which we're establishing. And when they return back in the next 2 and then again in 5 years, they want to see what progress we've made on these goals. So basically, we're dictating the terms for SIS. They're more interested in that we have a plan like this, that we are looking to grow into one of the finest schools. And every school is different, you know, in terms of who they want to be and who they aspire to be. And their role is in supporting that role more than anything else, not changing the direction of the content or the materials. They want to support us in what we want to do, hence the independent part. Other questions? One thing I did not do, and I was negligent in not doing that, I just wanted to really thank the administrative team who's here tonight, who's really been my bedrock all year, Sister Donna, Lord Jane Lake, Cindy Nehemias, and Terry Kent, who've been so much a part of all these conversations. Mindy Gibbons, who is actually doing her own SIS accreditation in Mexico City this week. She's part of a team on a school visit. Everyone's been so wonderful and so supportive, as well as are there any other faculty and staff here? Is there any Ms. Readers in the back? Lewis is in the back. Thank you to everyone. Pastor Hanson is here. And then there's Michelle Henry. There you are. You didn't raise your hand. But thank you for being here. Any other questions before we conclude? Yeah.
What are some of the other proactive fundraising activities you're looking to instill? Like, for instance, we have the kitchen and all down here. There are organizations that are looking for places to rent monthly. That would be a great way to fundraise if they thought of that to independent, non-profit organizations. That is something that could be a way of fundraising. So what are some of the other
Well, it's
type of-
interesting you said that, because a lot of schools right now are talking about these alternative streams of revenue, because really there's only 2 places schools like us get revenue from. It's tuition, and they get it from fundraising. So what could the alternate signs be? A lot of schools are going, especially the high schools, really go into more online classes, offering online offerings. Summer programs are one way. After school enrichment is already something that we've been doing. Schools are doing a lot of that as well. Rentals are certainly a possibility. Actually, it's funny, I was talking to Mr. Sherman, who I'm not sure is here. Is Mr. Sherman? Mr. Sherman and I are talking very much right now about the Palm Beach Chamber for possibly renting some of the space next year for concerts here next year, which would be a really exciting thing as well. So that's a great idea. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but we're certainly considering, you know, everything that's reasonable as well. You know, because the one thing that we don't want to do is we certainly need to fundraise, and we certainly need to do those things, but we also don't want to really violate the integrity of what we do. And I think that's always a concern when we do those things. So I'm not specifically answering your question, because a lot of these things are coming under consideration, but facilities rental is certainly something that I think the school has always done to some level. Yeah.
We're having Mary Helen speak to us next Tuesday morning, I believe it is, and had a parent networking, and Laura Jane, you've been helpful in sort of broadening our approach
You know, when you speak of parent networking, I think parent networking, before we even talk about the academic part of it, parent networking is just good for a school. It's about FaceTime. It's about relationships. We have so enjoyed the conversations we've had through parent networking, through our grade level coffees. All were new additions this year because it gives us FaceTime and it gives us a better feel for what's going on in the community, what people are feeling, what's going well, what's maybe not going well for one reason or another. So I would say if there was a primary piece of parent networking, it would be that. And the mission parent networking also should be about all of you using each other as a resource. So that's a huge part of it as well. But yeah, it has been about thinking about education, you know, thinking about who we are ultimately aspiring to be in terms of our program and what kind of graduates and, you know, we're trying to produce. It's all been a part of it. So I think parent networking is certainly a very interesting role, and it's something I'm excited about and looking to expand. So. Other comments? I know all of you are thinking, I just want to go outside and have a glass of champagne and toast our future together, which I'm thankful to our advancement office for thinking of that idea because it was a great one, because it's certainly worthy of a toast. Yes?
I'm sure there's a lot of thought that went into recent or concerts. It's great, especially for athletics. But how did you decide to make it a free service when there's so much focus on making raise money and stuff? I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, just curious how you did that decision.
You know, I would say that in essence, what we're trying to do is form an inclusive school. And if we need to expand our net to get us, really have a big applicant pool as possible by doing that. And by offering it as part of our tuition, we're really, I think it says a lot about who we're trying to be. We're trying to be an inclusive school to attract a lot of different kids, because in some ways, charging for busing is really kind of putting a hurdle, I think, in front of a lot of families. That doesn't need to be there. And that's, I guess that's to summarize it in the best way. Certainly we need fundraising and we certainly need revenue, but that's not the way to get it. At least that's what I believe. So. Other questions or comments? Tom?
I was blessed a few years ago to participate in the strategic planning exercise that we did, and actually a couple of the folks, at least I know that were involved in that, and I'm struck by the presentation tonight and how similar many of the initiatives are to what was identified back then. And I'm also struck by the progress that's been made since that plan. Where, you know, and we talked about that in coming up with that plan. That, you know, it's not just making a plan, but executing a plan. And you've made a lot of headway this year. I'm you know, for a guy that just started, it's amazing. You got it done, but with everybody, of course. But you know, executing this going forward is, you know, the next thing. It really feels like it does spring from that.
It does.
Previous effort that we all went through.
And
was deep. I mean, we went under the hood and spent a lot of time talking about it.
And Tom, I thank you for bringing that up, because I should have brought it up earlier. This is really an outgrowth of that strategic plan, which was done in 2013. And a lot of schools, it's funny because a lot of the schools that I'm in contact with, you know, there's really a strong sense within a lot of the schools that the strategic plan that you went through and that process that you went through, that's so deep, so exhaustive, it's really different, it's a different time now. You know, I think the recession actually did change a lot of schools' strategic plan, because a lot of schools who had really well-established strategic plans, all of a sudden were hit with the recession, and they realized, look, those strategic plans needed to go out the window. So what they've done since then is really adopt more this concept of strategic thinking. And that we're always going to strategic think, and we're always going to have these short-term goals, but they're going to be achievable. And you might not have this really in-depth strategic planning process, but you're going to have continual updates to talks like this. And really a lot of consensus around those achievable short-term goals. And really stick your toe in the water with the next 3 to 5 year plan. So it's kind of an interesting climate in terms of strategic plans in general for schools, because a lot of schools have actually done away with the practice, because we all realized pretty like the world did, that things can change just like that, and you better be prepared for But to your point, it does. It is an offshoot of that strategic plan from 2013. Any other questions? Is everybody ready for a toast? Okay. Very good. Let's go.
I had to play shortstop, damn it. We had to we missed you.
The whole thing out like this. We missed you. How was it going?
That was fun. It was fun. We missed you. Luckily, we had 3 kids there. Daddy helped.
Make a big deal about it.
It was fun. Missed you. Yeah.
Last week we were away. So that's why I just took him home. Are you attached to the sound here?
No, I'm not.
I mean, Lucy was ready to go attend. She's like, Mom, let's go. Oh, really? She should have been. I feel like she normally is, but she wasn't feeling well. It was great. It was fun. And that was beautiful. I've been invited to go to the Coconuts, and I'm like bummed that I never said yes. And now I'm like, I know. Next year, I'm going. We should. Yeah. It was bad. But that's still a fun night.